So, with the debt ceiling looming very soon and our political system working exactly the way it always works, the US is hurtling towards a default, which of course means the market will crash on June 1st. And if that happens, it's going to be a disaster to say the least. So, we need to talk about all this, what your options are, what the government's options are, and exactly what my plan is through all of this. I just ask in exchange for you to gently tap that like button and remember to subscribe too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. So guys, honestly, here we go again. I mean, it's the same crap every year, the same thing. Both political sides, play this game. It's freaking stupid. I don't understand it. It's just, hey, we once we pass everything, it's kind of like, hey, we've already had a chance to debate this, but, let's go ahead and kind of teeter, the US on the edge or the brink of destruction, waiting and trying to figure out, should we pay our bills? Should we not pay our bills? Whatever the case is. It's one of these ridiculous times and it comes up every single year. So the next question really becomes, has this ever happened before? I mean, have we ever defaulted? And the answer to that is no, we have never actually defaulted on our debt. Now, kind of for context here, the last time we were kind of close was back in 2011. And during that time, we actually got downgraded by Moody's and a lot of other things like that. There was a lot of noise, a lot of consternation. There was a lot of everything. And remember back then, 2011, we were just still, at the very, very beginning of coming out of the financial crisis. That whole disaster. So the economy was far worse then. Everything was far worse then than it is right now. So also keep that in the mind contextually. I know all the doomsdayers are out there saying this is going to be worse than the Great Depression or whatever. Anyways, the point being, factually, we were in a way worse spot. We were just coming off of the financial crisis, still not out of that entire mess yet. However, back then, what we ended up getting was just a couple of months of actual buying opportunities to buy before eventually the stock market and everything else just picked right back up and continued marching forward out of that trough that it was in. So regardless of all the narratives or anything else out there, there are other ways to kind of kick this can down the road a little bit, which is always what we seem to do in the end until we finally come to an agreement of some sort. It's just kind of how it works, regardless of how silly it is. Now, to be perfectly honest, there are some options on the table that, obviously, depending upon what you watch, and I'll be honest with you, I don't care about what you watch. I don't care about what Fox says. I don't care about what CNN says, MSNBC, Newsmax, whoever. I don't care about what any of those folks say about, do we have options? Do we not have options? Can you do this? Can you do that? All these other silly things like that. I understand that a lot of those things are there, but you got to understand with the media, just because they sprinkle in some truth does not make the entire statement or the entire case that they're making an actual fact, right? It's just kind of like conspiracy theories. A really good conspiracy theory that's not true in the end, but a really good one has elements of truth within it, right? Same thing with a good lie, right? A great lie has elements in truth within it, but that doesn't make the lie true. It just means there are elements within the lie that are true. So when I watch any of those stations, pick them, I know that I'm getting some truth, some conjecture, some opinion, and it's all kind of packaged together as fact. And that doesn't make it actually a fact, if that's kind of makes sense. So hopefully that analogy made sense there. So I don't care about what's being said on any of those channels. Take your pick. I'm interested in looking about what's actually there and what is actually feasible whenever it comes to this. Now, it doesn't mean it's palpable. It doesn't mean it's the right way to go. It doesn't mean it's the most advantageous way to go. Obviously, just passing the dumb thing and moving on is the most advantageous, but it doesn't mean that all options are off the table and none of them can happen. So let's kind of go through a few of those first. Now, the first and the most obvious one is you could actually prioritize payments to actually make the money stretch longer to kind of avoid a default for longer. Now, it's actually happened in the past in regards to the budget negotiations, stuff like that, right? I know sometimes, the military has been, without pay or threatened to be without pay. Other government employees have not been paid during the time. Other government contracts have not been paid at various times as they kind of work through some budgetary issues and such. And you could do that same exact thing again here and choose to pay some to keep us from quote unquote defaulting and kick the can down the road on some other things and eventually pay everything back whenever they kind of get through all this sort of mess. So there is a way to actually, pick and choose what they pay and make the money stretch longer, right? Just like you would with your budget. If you got $2,000 coming in a month, and hey, all of a sudden, your bills were $2,500. Well, you're going to pay some of them. You're not going to not pay all of them. You're going to pick and choose to pay some of them there and, ask for, forgiveness for not paying the other ones or, pay the interest or the penalty or whatever the case is on those other payments that you did not make. So there are options on the table like that there. Now, how they would structure that, what would get paid and what wouldn't get paid, I have no idea. But that doesn't mean it's not an option that they can't choose to employ to kind of get us through this time. And second, The 14th Amendment is on the table, even though I agree, don't scream, don't go down to the comments there. It is absolutely uncertain from a long-term perspective. However, if the president chose to go down that route, it will allow them to essentially kick the can down further as it goes through all the different legal challenges and scrutiny and all the other pieces like that. And we all know how the legal system works here. It's not going to be fast. And in the meantime, they're negotiating behind the scenes there to eventually get something passed, in the interim. Now, again, remember, these aren't optimal. I'm not saying it's the right or wrong way to go. However, it is an option that is there that could be pulled to basically kick the can down the road further and allow for negotiations to continue while all the legal challenges and everything else is going on. And finally, the Treasury could just, basically print the $1 trillion platinum coin and deposit it into the account to continue to pay the bills. I know Janet Yellen's come out and said, hey, I'm not doing that. That's off the table. Let me give you a little bit of speak here. That's just political theater, more political theater to force the lawmakers to actually come to an agreement so they don't have to go to that kind of worst case scenario there. That's why she's saying that. You don't want to say it's out there because then everybody will just agree to disagree and just tell them, hey, put the coin in there while we continue to try to get our way. So they want to put it out there. Hey, this isn't an option, but I think if it really came down to do we default or do we not, they would print that coin and make it happen so that way we didn't have to have the default. So again, more political theater, more nonsense, more whatever, but the law is there. It is clear that that can actually happen, and it is an actual avenue that they could take in order to kind of get the debt ceiling passed or get us through that timeline so that way we have money to pay the bills until they get everything figured out. So to me, one of those options, or they actually come to an agreement, is probably what's going to happen there. Again, we've never defaulted again. And that, to me, is the most likely scenario of the group, is that we actually don't have a default. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it won't happen. Just that we actually, we're going to pass something and get through this, regardless of what options or what mixture of options we choose to take. But we have to say, because it's not an impossibility, it is a possibility, even though I think it's small. Let's talk about what happens if we don't actually pass this debt ceiling and we actually default on our debts. Let's kind of work through that scenario as well, because, hey, we need to be prepared here, right? This channel is all about being prepared, having a plan, and moving forward. And so we need to be prepared for that. So if that happens, if we actually have a default, I think absolutely chaos will ensue. I mean, what happens? I mean, does the US stay the world reserve currency? Does the economy completely collapse? Does all the businesses collapse? I mean, does just basically everything disintegrates if we default on our debts? And of course, if all that happens, should you just sell and run away? I mean, that's going to be the narrative, but in actuality, that is not the truth of what will actually happen at all. And let me just kind of run through a few questions here, and let's kind of talk through a few things. And the first thing would be, who else are you going to buy debt from, because you need debt in order to finance your governments and trade currencies and all those sort of things like that? Who are you getting that from? Are you going to buy sudden now? Is the world going to sudden now buy Chinese bonds or Russian bonds? Or some other bonds to kind of fund things? Is that what's going to happen? Are they going to run to the Chinese currency or Russian currency or another currency, or create a new currency out of thin air to be the world reserve currency? I mean, what currency is more stable than the US dollar, even if we default? What currency are you defaulting to that can handle everything that the US dollar does and everything that the US provides for the rest of the world? I mean, suddenly, are you going to stop needing US military assistance and basically having the US military all over the world doing various things for various countries, because that is part of the agreement, along with a lot of other things for the US being the world reserve currency? Who steps in and takes that place, and who can do that with the size and the strength and everything else of the US military and handle all the other economic features that kind of come along with being tied to the US dollar versus other currencies? That's a question I don't know if any of us can answer. And speaking of, basically the economy and the US economy, is the US economy all of a sudden going to fall off a cliff if the US defaults on its debt? I mean, seriously, think about this for just a second. If the US doesn't make its full bond payments to China, for example, because I'm sure our quote unquote enemies that hold a lot of our bonds are going to be the ones that aren't going to get paid first, right? You're going to pay your friends before you pay your enemies, right? So are you suddenly going to stop going out to eat tomorrow because the US defaulted the day before on their debts to China? Questions to be answered, right? Are you suddenly not going to, fill up gas in your car? Are you suddenly not even going to leave your house because the US didn't make payments to the government tomorrow? Are you not going to go on vacation this summer? Are you canceling Netflix? Are you not going out with your friends? Are you just basically going to sit at home and do absolutely nothing because the US did not pay their bills? Now, absolutely, there's going to be short-term chaos in the markets. The news and the media and YouTube and everybody else is going to go into overdrive with God knows what sort of craziness is going to come out of all that. But the question is, What changes in your day-to-day life? Now, I understand if they choose not to pay Social Security recipients or, military payments or other government employee payments, such. Okay, that we're talking a different scenario there, but I really think they'll take care of those and choose not to pay others. And remember, we're talking about a default on the debt there, which means we're not making our bond payments on that debt. So in that event that we aren't making our bond payments anymore on that debt, what changes in your day-to-day life? That's kind of the question there. And again, I'm assuming that they pay Social Security and pay some of the other things that'd be political, not goodness to do something like that. So I think those folks would end up getting paid. But what else changes in your day-to-day life? The answer is nothing changes in your day-to-day life, assuming that they pay out Social Security and the other folks like that. Defaulting on the actual bond payments, nothing changes in our day-to-day lives at all. Now, on the flip side of that, the markets absolutely will be in chaos. So that's kind of my take on the economy here, but let's talk about the markets because of course that's why you guys are here, is to talk about the markets and what will actually happen with the markets. And I agree, they will be in complete chaos. To me, that just sounds like opportunity. Just like, last summer when we were hitting those June lows, everybody was saying it's still got 50% more down to crash until it didn't. And then it was basically in December, hey, don't worry, 2023, short the market, don't even bother. It's all going down. You're wasting your time doing that. The market in 2023 is going to be terrible. And here we are 6 months in, and it's pretty darn good so far. Now, that doesn't mean we can't go down. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we won't go down if this happens. Like I said, there will be chaos. But do we go back down below those October lows? I don't know. Possibly. I'll be honest with you. It's definitely possible. That's probably the only thing I can see that would actually send us back down to those October lows. I don't even know if we get there. That's just one of those possibilities. But I'll tell you this much right now. I would be excited as an investor because I would love to see Tesla down in the 100, 110, 105, 100, whatever. Get under 100, please. Doesn't matter. I would love that. I'd love to see Palantir in the 6s. I'd love to see Meta in the 80s again, or Google down in the 80s, or Amazon down in the 80s. I would love to see that happen again. That is just opportunity. And I know some of you guys out there, if you have kind of the right mindset and you've been following this channel, you wish so too, because I'm seeing it everywhere now. Boy, I wish I would have bought more Palantir. Man, I wish I would have bought Tesla when everybody was saying get out of Tesla and run away because it's going to 70 or 60 or 50 or whatever. Same thing with Meta. Oh my gosh, that was the easiest money ever. Yeah, it was. We were talking about it here on this channel the entire time. Buy, buy, buy. That's what we were doing. That's what we were prepared for because we viewed those as opportunities. And if we get those October lows again or anything close, it's another opportunity. Absolutely, it hurts your portfolio in the short term. And I'm not a trader, so I'm not going to try to trade and try to figure out, well, if we default, well, if this happens and how much further is it going to go? I don't know. It may not get anywhere close to those October lows. It may go down below those October lows. Nobody knows. That's the entire point of this. And that's why trying to trade is so hard. That's why you see so many folks, trades, they win 50% of the time, 60% of the time, whatever the case is. Still not a very good percentage. And then after taxes, you would have been better off just holding. But I'm not here to bash anybody or say there isn't a technique to that. But I'm not here to try to guess macro events and then trade off of them. That's a terrible strategy, in my opinion. I'm here to just simply have a plan and be ready regardless of what the market does. When it runs up, I'm happy because I bought my shares. I've loved Palantir's run the past few weeks. It's been awesome. But guess what? I've been adding to that stock for almost a year now. Every time it was down, 6, 7, whatever. And it's had some nice little run-ups. I cooled off buying. And then whenever it came back down, started buying it again. To me, in the end, as a long-term investor looking out 3 to 5 years, this isn't a bad situation at all. It's going to be a non-event 6 months after it happens, and all you're going to be doing is sitting down there and looking at great opportunities. But if you don't have a valuation and a plan for that stock, you're going to be one of those folks who was basically selling Tesla, as it was falling down to around 100 because you didn't know, you didn't have a valuation, you didn't have a plan. Same thing, when Alex banged the table and YouTubers freaked out, you would have been selling that stock instead of holding that stock and continuing to add to that stock to where now you're enjoying that run up. You would have been selling Meta because everybody said Meta was dead. It's going away. Screw what the financials say or anything else happening in that company. The actual data that was there right in front of you, it's just going away. Same thing with Google. ChatGPT is taking over. It's a dead company. Run away, run away. All those times were just incredible times to buy. By planning and doing your due diligence, it is very easy to cut through the noise and see opportunities. And I know that it works. I just got through a little, what are we looking at? Probably 6, 7, 8 month period here where I've made some of the easiest money I've ever made in 20 plus years of investing in the stock market because the opportunities were just screaming at me. It was just so easy to see. Doesn't mean I'm perfect. Doesn't mean every stock has paid off yet. Some stocks may pay off 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Maybe they don't pay off at all. But so far, it has been some of the easiest money I've ever made in 20 plus years in investing. But it came back to having a valuation, having a plan, and then being able to take that, bounce that off what the market was doing, and take advantage of opportunities. And if you don't know how to do a valuation and have a plan for a stock, make sure you check out the Market Insiders private group where we teach you exactly that through 5 courses. You get unlimited access to me in my DMs. We do live Q&As. We got tons of exclusive videos you can watch. You get access to the best 6 and 7 figure Discord out there. I mean, there's just more tools. We got more tools coming. We have a nice little stock analyzer tool coming for you that is free for members to use. So make sure you check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership is right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market, and click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.